Hey there, Leica fans, and welcome to a brand new program from Leica Camera USA. I'm your host, Antonio Benedetto, Product Specialist for Leica Camera USA. Thank you so much for joining us today. And with me, my friend and colleague and co-host, John Kreidler, Leica Camera's Pro Imaging Specialist here in the USA. Hello, John.
Hey, Antonio, really great to see you. How you been? You've been all right during these crazy days?
It's been crazy days, but fun times even so, with all kinds of new things and this new program we have. So thanks again, John, for joining me and being a part of this. Folks, we've been bringing you programming online here in the States with our Leica Conversations webinars and taking you on all kinds of inspirational journeys with photographers from all around the world who use Leica cameras, and we will continue to bring you those inspirational moments through Leica Conversations. But here, the Leica Tech Talk is a new format where we can get a little geeky with you, talk cameras, talk the gear that we enjoy and have so much fun with, and go a little deeper into the technology, the design, and what makes Leica cameras and lenses so special and unique. And now, John, we want people to be able to talk to us, interact with us. So why don't you let them know how they can ask us questions that we can answer live?
Sure, and we want to hear from everybody, right? So if you have a question, please feel free to use the chat function and write it there. Also, let us know where you're tuning in from, because I think it's kind of cool to see where people are watching our programming from. It's a lot of fun to know the reach and scope of the program. Also, if you want, you can tweet your question and use the hashtag Leica Tech Talk, and we'll be sure to monitor those scenarios. And we want to make sure that we answer each and every question during today's program. So, Antonio, yeah. What is Tech Talk? What's it all about?
So again, it's just all about being able to talk shop a little bit and present things to you guys in a new way and a new format here on YouTube Live. And again, we want to be able to answer your questions and have a little bit of a conversation through the gear and the fun shared passion that we have in photography. That's not just motivated by the art, but also the craft and the craftsmanship, and it's very much exhibited in Leica cameras. So, John, I think there should be lots of questions asked because we've got a new camera that we just launched last week, the Leica SL2-S, and it's already been getting some buzz. John, can you just give us like the elevator pitch, like the quick, what is this camera about in just the smallest words?
Wow, that's a difficult task. I mean, even for me, a man of short words, as some may say, or not. So for me, it's everything that I love about the SL2, but now with this brand new 24 megapixel CMOS BSI sensor that really is extraordinary for shooting, particularly at high ISO, great color, and at high ISO, as well as throughout the range. But it really is a hybrid camera. It's really designed for photographers, right, who want to shoot and need to shoot both still and video. And we've got some great proof of performance images that we'll show in a bit, and talk about other secrets of the camera, perhaps. And tell me, Antonio, was your mission a success? Were you able to breach the security barriers of the HQ and get an SL2S that was perhaps in a box?
Yeah, so I think everyone, we've all been good boys and girls this year because we have a delivery from Santa. We have an SL2S here in the box that let's quickly dive in and see what we've got here. And let's see what you get when you get an SL2S. So for those familiar with the SL2, this should look familiar. You see your packaging at the very top. You've got your top foam insert, which contains your Adobe Lightroom stuff, your Creative Cloud, and all your paperwork stuff. Here we've got the contents of the package, and we'll go through this kind of quickly. Here you've got the camera itself. let's see this beautiful brand new camera. And let's see what that is. Look at that right there with the blacked out like a word mark. You've got your battery charger, your strap. And again, for any SL2 owners, I saw some people were saying they're SL2 shooters already talking in the chat. We see you, by the way, chat. So we've got our strap, we've got cables, all the prerequisites that you would expect from the SL2 here with the SL2-S. And, you know, John, same battery and charger as the SL2, of course.
Right, but better battery and life performance. So over 500 shots versus about 370 with the SL2. So again, that's something that's really important to photographers is, you know, you need battery to make images, as well as light, of course, but it's nice to know that it is the same battery. And now due to the technology in the camera, it's going to perform better as well. So yeah, hopefully you've got a battery all charged up.
Yeah, in the interest of for time and in our best cooking show impression, I've got a fully baked SL2-S right here, ready to go. And here I have it outfitted with the 35mm Summicron SL, the f2, aspherical apochromatic, I think one of the new shining gems of our lineup for the SL lenses. See that beautiful black word mark catching the light there.
That's awesome.
So, John, this camera looks very similar to an SL2. It's, for most intents and purposes, it's the same body. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's similar?
Sure. So, first of all, the user interface. So it's what I like personally about our user interface. It's very simple to navigate, and now, you know, with like the SL2, the SL2-S shares that separated photo and video menu. You know, the other part of it going in through the menu and going into the line items, again, very intuitive and very easy to adjust. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I find extremely useful is the fact that I can set my camera up completely different in terms of how I want to shoot for photo or for stills and video or say motion. And those, and then when I flip the camera to that mode, my camera is set that way. So I have this separation based on what I'm shooting in terms of my settings, and it's extremely helpful and extremely useful to have. So that's, of course, the user interface, again, very intuitive. It also has in-body image stabilization, and I know you, Antonio, love shooting M lenses. So
absolutely,
now all those M lenses, right? They'll all be image stabilized, just like they would on the SL2.
Right,
so
and
really
here,
helps.
You know, if I've got, say, like my kind of classic but, you know, modern 50mm Summicron, my base Summicron here with an adapter, we can see how, you know, just adapt this little lens and put it on the SL2-S and it's fully stabilized. One of the beautiful benefits of you know, using even classic lenses, older lenses. I even like to, you know, put on old screw mount lenses from the 30s and 40s, put a little adapter ring on there, adapt that to this M adapter L, and I can get classic rendering, vintage rendering straight out of camera for stills and for video. And
another great help for using M lenses on the SL2 or 2S is the fact that it has the 5.74 megapixel Eye Res EVF. So making it extremely easy, especially if you wear glasses, to look in. You're looking into a Leica glass magnifying piece with adaptive adjustment that really makes it extremely easy with the aid of focus peaking to focus exactly where you'd want, particularly with M lenses. And of course, it's sealed against dust and splashes to the level of IP54. So again, no matter what the weather, whatever weather you want to subject your person to, the SL2 as well as the SL2-S is not going to let you down. Of course, you have to be intelligent, right? You don't want to change lenses or batteries or memory cards out in the rain, but you know, while you're shooting, it's sealed. So
Exactly.
as Antonio mentioned, right, the build quality. So we know the camera, the top and bottom plate are all milled from one block of aluminum. And we do that for the strength. And also you can tell that then in the feel of the camera, that top plate is milled and the bottom plate as well as milled. And then the body itself is a magnesium alloy, all very important for many reasons, including the sealing, but some other video feature we'll talk about in a minute or two, that
Yeah.
body and that construction and that size is going to come into play.
Yeah, it's amazing how, you start with this 1 kilo brick of aluminum, and that gets made into this, and then this becomes this. And really, we can't emphasize enough how strong and rigid this all is. And there's good reason for doing all of this, because ultimately, this is what gives the camera the feel and the rigidity and rugged, inspiring feel that when you pick it up and you go to use it, it should motivate you to go and photograph or video whatever you need to do, even in the elements. This is all part of the equation, and we could do it cheaper. We could do it from pressed aluminum or something, but it just wouldn't be the same. It just wouldn't be that same Leica feel that everyone knows and loves us for. So that's what goes into this camera, and goes a long way into the long-lasting ruggedness of this system. And that's why we kind of do it the hard way, right? Wouldn't you say, John? I think why cut the corners, right? When we could mill them down from a single block.
Right, and it speaks to our core values and what we want to deliver in a product. So the next feature I guess we ought to talk about is again the dual card slot that both cameras share. Their SD UHS2 compatibility, and also using what I like to refer to as a Digitech friendly full-size HDMI connector. So it's very sturdy and rugged, not like a mini or micro HDMI connector. If you wanted to shoot to either a monitor of some kind, like an Atomos, it's nice to have that full-size connection that does not break easily. Of course, this camera is also part of our L-mount system. So as some may be aware, we're part of what we call the L-mount Alliance. So that's an agreement between Leica, Panasonic, and Sigma, and we all share the same lens mount, the L mount, the mount that we developed. And I see Antonio's got some really very nice lenses on the table.
Yeah, I mean,
I had.
It's I saw some people commenting in the chat that they already own the 35 or some other lenses from our systems. There's so many lenses you can use through adapters, but then of course, and I only have a couple of examples here from the L-mount system and then our SL lenses. The Summicron SL 75mm f2 right here. Kind of matching the body or barrel design and style and size of the 35. These two, as well as the 90, as well as the 50, and the upcoming 28, 24, and 21 that we all have already announced in our roadmap, same exact barrel design. And there's a lot of sense in doing that and uniting the designs of these lenses for the sake of manufacturing and convenience and comfort. We've got a 51.4. This amazing piece of glass right here is the 90 to 280mm. And we love prime lenses, and in the world of Leica, most people love to use prime lenses because that's where our M lineage is from. But ultimately, the zoom lenses are amazing. I mean, the 24 to 90mm zoom lens, the 16 to 35 wide angle, and this 90 to 280, each one is like having half a dozen prime lenses in your bag because they're so sharp at each and every focal length. So, but the L-mount Alliance even allows you, as John, as you said, you can put a Panasonic lens on the camera and a Sigma lens on the camera that are L-mount and have that further compatibility. So there's a theme here that we're starting to build. We're starting to talk about the versatility of this system, and keep that in mind because we're going to be talking about a little down the road in this program more ways this camera system is versatile and flexible and in stills and in video. So John, one other thing that we wanted to call out, 30-minute long exposure capabilities, right?
That's right. So just like the SL2, the SL2S does have that 30-minute exposure length. And I know you're a big fan, Antonio, of long exposure. Perhaps
I am,
not
yes.
30 minutes, because that is a long time to be out somewhere where there's almost no light. It's pretty scary stuff. So, but the nice thing is there's no secondary exposure needed, just like in the SL2. So with our other cameras, say you could do like the SL type 601, let's say, you do a 20-minute exposure. It required a 20-minute dark capture to create a noise mask to eliminate the noise. With the SL2 as well as the SL2S now, that is not necessary. So again, I think it's a big feature. And Antonio,
Yeah,
how
no,
hopefully you'll
this
get
is
a
so
chance to
important.
shoot it soon.
This is something that I think a lot of our, I look forward to taking this out in the field and doing some long exposures at night. It's something that I've had a passion for quite some time now, and I love doing. And, you know, this is a feature that people have asked for a while, because, you know, if you do a 4-minute exposure, for example, which doesn't seem all that long, when you're out in the middle of the night on your own, 4 minutes feels like an eternity. And when you have to do long exposure noise reduction, adding another 4 minutes to the end of that, so 8 minutes for that one capture, you can see how this gets exponentially longer. So again, for me, a personal benefit to not having to worry about that long exposure noise reduction. It's there as an option if you need it, but you can turn it off on the SL2 and the SL2S now as well. So again, great feature. Love that we can do that, and love that we can reach these very long exposure times, because 30 minutes is by far the longest exposure time we have in our lineup of all of our cameras. And, you know, ultimately though, John, it's got to be sharp, right? You can't just have a noisy, muddy mess if you're going to do these long exposures. And,
Right.
you know, our cameras are known for having no low pass filter, right, on the sensor?
Correct. Right. So there's no additional low pass filter that actually blurs the image to prevent moire. So our sensors and lenses work together to give you the Leica look, which basically translates to the full rendering palette of what the lens can produce. So that's, again, to me, another great feature that really accentuates the quality and the imaging prowess and resolving prowess that our lenses offer. So another quick point that's similar is it's the same USB-C connectivity for both tethering as well as additional power. So again, that's something that many video folks have enjoyed, the ability to, even with a good battery, and it's possible to extend that battery's life by plugging into USB-C. And even for time exposure, it could also be handy.
Yeah, it's another great point, and a benefit. I mean, not to get too behind the scenes here, but the cameras that we're rolling on right now are SL2s that we each have plugged into USB-C so they can run extra long. And, you know, obviously that's why we get the great picture quality that we have to you here now, running HDMI out clean on SL2 cameras. So John, we talked a little bit at the beginning. You mentioned 24 megapixel CMOS BSI backside illuminated sensor. Can you give us a little bit of, we talked a bit about the similarities of SL2 and SL2S. Now this is a big differentiator between the SL2 that we all know and love at 47 megapixels and the SL2S at 24 megapixels. So what can you tell us a little bit about backside illuminated sensor BSI? How does it work, and what's the takeaway? What's the benefit? Why do we do this in the sensor?
Well, the real difference, I guess, is that in a regular sensor. So let's say, well, we can talk about the SL2 sensor being 47 megapixel. That sensor, each pixel well is powered, right? It needs power. So the electronics run next to the pixel well. So it's actually taking up space on that wafer. Where a backside illuminated sensor, those electronics are underneath the pixel well. So what that means is that you can either have slightly bigger pixels or in our case, slightly more. So it's actually, even though we say it's a 24 megapixel sensor, it's actually 24.6 megapixel sensor. So, there's a little some extra, right? As Antonio may say, in the sensor. So it's, that's really the difference. So with that, with the electronics underneath, that also helps the sensor run cooler, and there's less interference with circuitry, certainly less errant photons. All that translates to, I would say conservatively, 2 stops better performance than even the SL2. And I may say, I'm going to go out on a limb, 3 stops over an SL. So again, I really want to get my hands on this camera, and hopefully someday.
Sorry,
soon,
John, I'm hogging it. You're not getting it from me.
Yeah, well, so you're that way now. All of a sudden,
yeah.
You're that way. Okay, fine.
Well, but again, I think one of the big takeaways there, like you just said, better low light performance even than the SL2, which is quite good in low light. Right. And for you original SL owners, right, that have been using your cameras happily since 2015 when we launched the system, right? If you're comfortable with 24 megapixels, you could potentially, if you want, consider moving to the SL2S, maintain the resolution you're used to and comfortable with all the lenses you normally use. With all this new video features, with all this new high ISO performance. And as John said, with that 24.6 megapixels, I know what you want me to say, John. You want me to give you that little something extra nice. I know. You're going to cue the Italian-American in me. I get it. Well, John, we've got some images because, ultimately the proof.
Yeah, let's take a look. Let's see what we got.
So we're talking high ISO. And right. What ISO is this shot at?
This was 64,000. Not
6,400.
No, and I know you and we talked obviously about this. I mean, the first thing it popped up, I'm looking at it, I'm like, is that a typo? We checked the metadata. It's not a typo. So I mean, we can even, I mean, to me, the overall color and the feel now granted, this platform is not going to do the image justice, right? But if we go in and kind of do a really severe crop, we're still seeing, let's call it digital grain and not really digital noise. It has a real film feel to it. The color is still very good and very vivid. And if we go in and even look even a little closer, to me, it's incredible to think that this was shot at 64,000 ISO, and the fact that it's originally a 24.6 megapixel file that now we're just looking at, it's probably almost 150%, like a really tight crop, and it looks phenomenal.
Yeah, and again, this could be really great for, like, say, a wedding photography, event photography, when of course that's a little more possible these days. But to be able to shoot all that low light, I personally use the SL2. I've used the Q2 and M cameras to shoot weddings. And the SL2 is an amazing performer for weddings, but I maybe would go be partial to, if I can't do maybe a dual camera setup of both SL2 and SL2S for a wedding, I maybe would pick the SL2S as my go-to wedding camera, with the high ISO performance and this kind of color quality at these peak ISOs, these extreme ISOs. This is an ISO level that we're used to seeing from our monochrome cameras, right? A ceiling of 100,000, like just recently on the Q2 monochrome and earlier this year, the M10 monochrome. Now, as you said, John, it's not just high ISO performance. Of course, 24 megapixels to some people may seem like a downgrade in resolution, but of course that's still a very moderately high resolution for most applications. And I think this example shows when you marry this kind of 24 megapixel sensor to Leica glass, you've got some great resolving power, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. And here at the Dom in Cologne, to me, it just a striking image of the detail. And if we go in, the detail kind of on the spires of the church, just plenty of detail, plenty of resolution. And if we even go even a little tighter, still plenty of detail. So, you know, a big part of this type of imaging for us is really how good our lenses are. The lenses are a big part of the story, and their ability to resolve, you know, far beyond the resolution of the sensor. Not having that low pass filter also allows for more sharpness and more resolution. What do you think about this, Antonio?
It's really impressive. I mean, you know, to be able to you know, have this kind of camera that can do. We just showed a high ISO example, and we talked a little about wedding photography, an event, right? We've talked already about, you know, now getting into landscapes, and just we're talking now. We're gonna tease a little bit of video talk in a moment. Again, I mentioned we're kind of setting the expectations here that this is a very versatile camera. So if this is going to be, you know, the kind of camera that, you know, could meet all the needs of someone that wants the Leica look and wants it in pretty much every application they can conceive. Hence why we say this is a hybrid camera. Hence why we say this is so versatile. So it's pretty exciting to see this kind of performance from, you know, what some people would consider these days lower resolution at 24 megapixels, which is still a whole lot of pixels.
Right. Well, you know, 24 isn't the end of the story, because this camera from day one has multi-shot that'll do a 96 megapixel still image, a still DNG, as well as a 24 megapixel DNG. So that multi-shot, where the camera itself is taking, using the electronic shutter, taking 8 images, and then in camera, putting them all together. And really improving, or I guess up-resing the image. So this is great, like Antonio was saying, for landscape applications, but even still life and studio applications where, let's say 24 isn't what the client wants, or maybe isn't what the photographer wants. They want more detail. So even if we dive in here and go in really deep, it's incredible how much sharpness and detail we're seeing, you know, at this. And again, this is probably more than 100% crop, and of the 24.6 megapixel sensor. So to me, just incredible.
Really impressive to be able to do this and let this sensor kind of essentially overperform, right? To get that kind of detail. I mean, you could start, I think, counting just individual little pieces of the stone and little some of the nuances to the architecture. It's really quite lovely. And again, you know, the Leica lenses can perform. You know, pair this with the latest technology, and here we go. We have a camera that can give you some amazing 24 megapixel images, and then overperform to give you some 96 megapixel stills for landscapes, as you mentioned, still life in the studio. Right. Also a great application. So yeah, John, there's a lot to love in the stills world, but we talked a little bit about already teasing the video aspects of this camera. It is a hybrid shooter. So what is it about the SL2-S video that's so special?
Well, I guess it's the fact that you can now record video unlimited internally. So no longer do you have a 29-minute limitation or a 96 gigabyte limitation. So, and all these things that we're going to talk about, our concept with this camera is on the video side, for those people that want to shoot video, that want the run and gun, you know, spot news, or I'm doing an event, maybe I'm doing a wedding, maybe I have to shoot stills and videos. We're trying to give those photographers / videographers a tool that is extremely versatile, but has all the features, let's say, that previous to you'd have to add on a monitor, or you'd have to add on a follow focus or something like that. So it's really important to us. So previously, you know, unlimited recording, the only way to get it from our camera would be like an SL2, as an example. You'd have to hook up a separate recorder like an Atomos and run the HDMI cable out. So now you have a screen, you have a cage of some sort, you know, and then you're adding to it to build out the system. So many of the videographers and professional photographers that I've worked with, they really just want that as small as it can be, and they don't want the extravagance. I mean, sometimes the big rig is impressive,
Right, of course.
but it's in the real world, when you need to get something done, convenience and feature set is, of course, the real answer to it. So again, unlimited recording. And then we also have integrated LUTs. So what's a LUT?
Yeah, I'm like, if you don't explain, I'm gonna jump in and be like, tell me what a LUT is for those that may not know, especially, there are plenty of people that do photography, but maybe they dabble into a little video. A LUT at first glance, sounds like some kind of old timey insult someone would throw at someone or something like that. But what is a lookup table?
Okay, so a LUT is a lookup table. So for a still photographer, the way I would explain it, say you're in Lightroom and you have a preset. It may be ones that Adobe has created for you, or you may have your own presets. You like to process out your images at a certain level of contrast, a certain color saturation, a certain amount of clarity, a certain amount of dehaze. All those little adjustments are what I would call a look or a preset. So that's what a lookup table is. It's basically taking what would be a very flat file, an log file, which is designed to protect and recording, protect highlights and shadows, and then process out with software. You would grade it using a lookup table, a LUT. So the interesting thing about this, again, is that previously, to see your footage with that look applied, you needed a monitor. Now, we'll have these two LUTs integrated. The other cool thing is, right now, they're available for download. So you can use them, obviously, in your post-production. They're available in both Rec 709 and Rec 2020, so that whether you're using Final Cut or Premiere or DaVinci Resolve to edit your footage, all those LUTs are available, so that what you've previewed is where you're grading to or applying that LUT to. So I think we have some examples of the L-Log and the two LUTs and what they look like. Let's see here. So here they are. The top is just L-Log. Then the next, I guess, lower left is my personal favorite, the Classic. And then the lower right, the Natural. So Antonio, I know you talk to a lot of people in the press as part of what you do. What's been the reception to the integrated LUTs and the actual look of the LUTs?
I got to give a quick shout out to the fine gentlemen at DP Review TV. They did a great video on the SL2-S, and they filmed some portions in the classic LUT format, and it looked phenomenal. They had a lot of nice things to say, and I think when we talked to some people about this camera now has integrated LUTs, there were and maybe some other things we're going to talk about in another moment that are coming. There was a little bit of fanfare. People were pretty psyched and pretty hyped. So it's great to see this kind of stuff coming in the video features. And yeah, it's great to see them side by side here. Again, as Johnny, you said, L-Log at the top, kind of that flat profile that, again, for the photographers in the audience who don't really do video, imagine if you had to look at all of your photos as you took them looking like that. You wouldn't want it. You want to see close to what the finished color is. That's one of the advantages of an EVF, right? And so here, that's what the LUTs do, giving you a preview of what that's going to look like once you're done, but still getting all that latitude, right? It's like picture compressing your levels, your histogram, And then when you bring it into post, you can expand it and get a much wider color gamut and a better look for more flexible grading and color correction. So it's pretty exciting stuff, John. I think, you know, this is a key component of the video chops of the SL2S. And yeah, the classic look might be already my favorite. You know, it's got almost like a Kodachrome look to it in some of the footage I've seen.
Very cinematic. Right?
Yeah, very classic. Oh, hence the name. There's more to come, a little bit of video, but you know, we talk video, we talk high ISO, we talk all these different capabilities through stills and video, and we talked landscapes before, but we definitely don't want to pigeonhole this camera as like a dedicated video and landscape camera. Right. This is a speedy little camera. So you know, with a 4 GB buffer, just like its sibling the SL2 has, and the more moderate resolution, John, we can achieve some pretty high burst shooting stills, can't we?
Right. And let's not forget the motor under the hood, the Meister 3 processor that allows all this to happen. So the camera will shoot at 25 frames per second using the electronic shutter, which is almost like a movie, right? At 24 frames a second. I mean, to think about it, which is crazy. And then using the focal plane shutter at 9 frames, and then trackable autofocus continuous shooting at 5 frames. So again, it's a camera that's very strong on the still side as well. So speaking of still and professionals, we announced on December 8th I guess the support, the full support of Capture One 21. And to me, this is always the question I get from professionals. How does your camera work with Capture One? How does it tether to, you know, how is it supported? And for the longest time, well, we're not supported. We have a program, we have like an image shuttle, you can tether into it.
There's a workaround,
There's a workaround. And to be honest, this to me is not that it's unique to this camera, but this happening, you know, around the launch of this camera is really, I think, for me, it's a big deal. And it's a big deal for a lot of people that I talk to that may use a Leica camera on the weekend, right? It may be their weekend drive. They're, you know, they have an M, they have a Q, and they like it, but they'd also would like to work with it. Right. You know, they want that passion to be able to bring that passion into their work. And now with this really lets them do it. So that is extremely exciting. And also the multi-shot feature works with tethering. And not only that, you get the pro standard ICC profile for our cameras. So that is another component that professionals and enthusiasts alike always ask for, because they like the way Capture One processes out images. So for them, it's important to have that, let's call it a Capture One look built in, and now it's there. So we have the cameras that tether currently, so S3, SL2, SL2-S, as well as the SL now and the S-Type 007 all will tether. And I think the S-Type 007 and the SL will have a pro standard profile in the next month or so. But the S3, SL2, and SL2S already have that in that program.
And I think one of the big takeaways there, John, is for people that are not as well versed in Capture One, it is often the workflow, the language that a lot of pro studio photographers use and work in. It's not necessarily that, you know, it's the only solution. You can tether into Lightroom, of course. And for all you Lightroom users, there is no worry that you have to switch over. The Adobe support is still full, still native. We still shoot DNG straight out of camera. So it's really just bringing more breadth of options to the system. You don't have to be concerned that you now have to consider Capture One and replace your Lightroom workflow. No, it's just another option, just as the SL2-S is another option in the SL line. This doesn't replace the SL2. It's in no way a lesser camera, and it just further supports giving photographers and videographers more options. You can choose the SL2 for your high resolution stills camera if you want that 47 megapixel beautiful chef's kiss crispness, or go with the SL2-S if you like the more speedy 24 megapixel resolution with the high ISO performance, with the a little more flexible video performance, the balance of stills and video, and yeah, just in the same way, use Capture One, use Lightroom. It's your choice, just as we said when we launched the SL2 over a year ago. So there's a lot to love in these cameras, the system, as it continues to grow among the lenses and feature set. And then I think, John, that should bring us to another great topic, which is how this system continues to grow, not just in lenses, not just in camera bodies, in technology. And we announced alongside the SL2-S, this is a first, we've never said that we have such lofty goals for more firmware than we have with this camera, because we say that by spring 2021, we have planned firmware development to bring a whole slew of new features to this camera. So, John, let's dive into a few of them. There's a lot of specifics, but maybe some top level ones that people should really pay attention to that are coming.
Sure. So, I mean, to me, going back to the flexibility of the camera, right? We're talking about an improvement in autofocus. So, we want the autofocus on the SL2 as well as the SL2-S to be the best it can be. So we have a new algorithm that's, improvement on eye, face, body, and tracking. So to me, that's a big deal. Another is kind of going back into this thing of, keeping the video on the video side, keeping things as compact as possible. So we will be able to record 4K, Cine 4K and 4K at 60 frames a second internally at a different codec, an H.265, which means it's a different level of compression, great image quality, yet half the data flow, whatever that means. Here's what it means.
Thank you, because otherwise I was going to interrupt you.
The same image quality, but smaller file size. So video, it's going to allow you to record it for videos, right? So again, it's a great feature. And then when we're looking at the things like endless recording, like we had mentioned before, we're also going to introduce segmented video, which up until this, you wouldn't see that in an internal camera. You'd need a monitor that would do that, whether it was an Atomos or other brand, that if it was coming near the end and the monitor actually warns you, hey, do you want me to save off this file so you don't lose this video that you've been shooting for however long you've been shooting, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever. So that's a big deal. Also, waveform monitoring, which is like a three-dimensional histogram, essential for a videographer.
That is like it's like a histogram on steroids, right? For the video, exactly. For the people who aren't so well versed in that in the video world.
Yeah, definitely. A tally mode, so there'll be a red box around the LCD screen on the back instead of just the one dot recording. There'll be a color bar and audio signal. So very useful for grading and setting audio levels and control in post. So you have a nice reference. And here, to me, this is, I don't know how many big things I've already said, but to me, it's just, it's so much. It's also relevant and so exciting. So you can create, like many photographers, right? On the still side, you create, like I'd mentioned, your own look, whether it's Lightroom or Capture One, whatever you're using. So with video, videographers want to do the same thing, right? So we've created two LUTs. I think they're awesome, but it's not everybody's style, right? So you'll be able to create your own LUT and get this, upload it to the camera. So you'll be able to see that LUT as you're shooting in L-Log. So to me, super, super exciting. I don't know how you feel about it, Antonio.
No, I mean, you know, it's I would say, you know, maybe video isn't my strong suit as much as it is for you, John, but you know, I can definitely identify the flexibility that this will bring, and when this firmware update drops. You know, like you said, we have the classic and natural LUT at launch. We have all these so many great features at launch, but of course the camera continues to get better through development, and we've seen this with other you know, with the SL system, with the original SL, the SL2, further features coming through firmware. It's part of our kind of promise to the customer that, you know, your camera should last as long as it possibly can. It should be an investment that makes a return for you for a long period of time. And yeah, for the LUTs, you know, it makes a lot of sense that, you know, one videographer is not the same as another, is not the same as another DP or another cinematographer, and might seek something different, whether it's super classic look, very modern, you know, or just kind of avant-garde and let's go crazy colors and vaporwave vibes. I don't know, you know, it's like there's all kinds of styles out there, and to be able to customize everything to your own liking and put it in the camera is fantastic. And one more feature I think for the cinematographers, an automatic follow focus option will be added too.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, that's really cool, where you'll be able to set the parameters of focus and then time it out. So you'll be able to basically eliminate, in theory, having an actual follow focus, that you'll be able to set the parameters for the lens to focus, particularly if you're on a slider of some kind, whether it's automated or manual. And again, that's a feature that I do get requests about, you know, videographers using a slider and want to have more consistent, measurable autofocus. And this is really a step towards that. So, I mean, to me, all these firmware updates really broadcast our vision for where we want this camera to be. And like you alluded to, I think for the SL, we might have added somewhere around 40, 45 features to that camera. So instead of bringing out a Mark II, which some other manufacturers may do, it's like you're saying, we want our customers to know that we start with great hardware, and we're going to constantly improve that with electronics or I'm sorry, not electronics, but firmware updates to further tweak the electronics. So
and further development. So John, there's a lot to love day one. I mean, obviously, folks, I see people talking in the chat. Love that you guys are here with us and talking this, and we're going to take your questions in a moment. You can get a sense that John and I love this stuff. We get motivated by it. We have fun with it. And ultimately, the reason why we talk this stuff is because in the end, we're passionate about photography. It resounds with us, or it's what ignites our passion, what fuels it, what motivates us, and that's why these cameras are so much fun. That's why we're here with this Leica Tech Talk program with you. So we see the questions. John, let's start fielding some questions here, and maybe we'll come back to some other topics that we were talking about with the camera.
Okay, sure. So here I've got a great question from Art Peterson. He's asking, will the coming new autofocus algorithms, it just jumped on me. Well, I guess, will they give for the, that are going to be announced in the SL2-S, will they be on the SL2? Yes, I believe they will be. Don't know what the timeline is, but my understanding is they will. The SL, it's a different language, from what I understand. So from
the original SL?
Yeah, the original SL, the Type 601, probably won't change.
Yeah.
So have you heard anything different?
Yeah, that makes sense. And again, we did a lot of firmware in the original SL, and that camera at 1.0 was very different than it was. I believe it was 3.0 might have been one of the last ones. And so it's pretty exciting to see what we do. And again, the firmware development, just as with the SL2, when we launched it and it didn't have multi-shot from day one, but we said it was coming. A few months later, we delivered on that promise. So the same way we have a promise here with the SL2-S in the firmware development. But of course, the SL2-S and the SL2 are a shared system. There may be some features also coming to the SL2. We don't know just yet, but of course, it makes sense that both cameras continue to grow with firmware as well.
I've got another question asking about will the LUTs happen on the SL2. To be honest, I don't know. Part of the other, I guess, other point to the 24 megapixel sensor is that it's easier to pixel bin, or to produce a 4K file from 24 than from a 47 megapixel. So, there's more going on in an SL2 on the video side. There's more, I guess, math behind basically the creating those images. So I don't know if that would happen.
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, a
have
24
you heard anything
megapixel
further?
sensor the 24 megapixel sensor is more apt to video, more fitted for video. And yeah, we'll have to, time will tell. It's still kind of early days. I mean, the camera is just a week old,
Right.
So a lot we'll see. But of course, keep in mind that we'll see, what's coming in the future months.
Right. I see a lot of interest in pro photo support. So if anyone's listening, they can fix that. I would appreciate that as well.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny you mentioned that, because so much of what we've talked about in this program and so much of what's coming in the firmware updates is driven by user feedback. So
Definitely.
Please tell us like what you want to see, because our product managers are listening. We pass along this information, both John and I, many of our colleagues alike. And our friends and colleagues in Germany really do try to put into the cameras what people are seeking, not just what we think you need, but to hear out what you need and what you want, and of course to always do it and meet you on the other side, but to always, of course, do it the Leica way, right? And
Right.
to do it right with our brand values in mind, and our motto, right? Das Wesentliche, the German phrase, which I always butcher, to say the essentials. And that's why the camera body is what it is. That's why the graphical user interface is what it is, right? And that's why we do the developments that we do with our firmware. I saw, John, another question. Here's a simple one from Brian Campbell. Does this camera have phase detect autofocus, or is it contrast detect? And John, I believe this is a purely contrast detect autofocus system.
Correct. Yeah, right. We're taking the contrast basically off the sensor. So that's technology that we're using. It's actually, we feel, the most accurate. And I'm sure we're exploring other ways to improve it, to make it faster, more accurate, and better. But yeah, it's contrast based. So the one big advantage is you can't back focus a lens with contrast space. I mean, if I look slightly back focused, it's because I'm not on my mark, shooting wide open. But anyway, so yeah.
And ultimately, the emphasis, I think, for our autofocus philosophy in a lot of ways is precision, right? It's we want it to be accurate focusing always, and that's to get it as accurate as possible. And we prefer, generally speaking, accuracy over speed, where if we have to pick. If we're in a situation where we have to. And so another question I've seen people ask maybe ahead of time or some feedback is the SL2-S autofocus system the same as the SL2? And the answer is yes. So if you're familiar with the SL2, just as you're familiar with the body, you'll also be familiar with the SL2-S's handling and autofocus system as well. John, I just saw a question come up on the screen for a moment. There was maybe a little more in your wheelhouse, talking about ProRes and recording on a monitor.
So yeah, Bill, our good friend Bill Brown. Our good friend Bill Brown. Hey, Bill. Is asking about, I guess, Atomos compatibility. Again, I've gotten many requests. Hey, are you guys working with Atomos? Are we doing it? And we've passed that along. And I think, I hope that at some point we'll have more compatibility, but right now we're just not doing anything with any raw format, any video format, whether it's Adobe Cinema or another variant of a raw file. So, you know, I know Atomos has done stuff with other manufacturers where it's kind of raw, but it's not really. So for us, you know, a big thing for us, right, is to be authentic and to represent a product, or I should say, create a product that represents our brand value. So a lot of times, you know, we get asked, well, why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that, or why doesn't it have this, or why doesn't it have that? It's in many cases, it's not that we haven't considered it, but we're looking at the overall picture. No pun intended, I guess.
Right.
We're looking at what the camera is going to deliver and what we want the camera to deliver. And if anything is a compromise, you know, we're not big on compromise. I mean, our lenses, you know, obviously speak to that. So, I mean, to me, and that's, to me, that's a great place to be, is that we're designing products that perform from an imaging standpoint in terms of sharpness, resolution, look, the way we want them to.
Yes.
And we're not guided by, you know, making a camera to a certain price point. And this camera, most of all, even though it is, you know, less expensive than the SL2, it's made to the same level of quality, many of the same, you know, much of the same materials.
Yeah,
So,
the same spec, the same, you know,
right,
lovely
exactly.
build, the same performance, right, that you would expect. So
Right.
it should, again, instill the same confidence, just as the SL2 does, with the same weather sealing. And now I see a great question from Paul. Which sensor will have the better contrast focusing for M lenses? I think what they're trying to say is, you know, when you're using M lenses, is there an advantage, or maybe one is easier to focus on the SL2 versus SL2-S? And, you know, Paul, great question. I think what I want to tell you is, while it's still early and my time so far with the SL2-S has been a little bit limited compared to the much greater amount that I've used the SL2, in my time with the SL2-S and just, you know, tinkering with a few M lenses, including the 75 Noctilux f1.25, I honestly felt the same comfort and ease of manual focusing with focus peaking and magnification that I saw on the SL2. So I would consider them to be pretty much on par. And, you know, with ease of focusing. And, you know, maybe we should speak to that just for a quick second, John. You know, the SL system is really the best place to use M lenses, second only to the M system itself.
Right.
And that's why people love using these, you know, compact manual focus lenses. You know, on this, I saw even at the very beginning of this program, some folks in the chat talking about how they like to use their M lenses on an SL or SL2. And, you know, I've seen many people, whether it's because of eyesight issues, you know, have trouble with manual focusing on a rangefinder, or just the convenience, or they want to be able to shoot video and stills. It's a great platform for using these M lenses on. And there's optimizations done to the sensor. I know we talked about BSI, backside illuminated, CMOS, you know, and we talked a little bit about the cover glass. Every Leica camera that has an interchangeable system, right, and can be compatible with M lenses, has M lenses accounted for in the design of its sensor. So that's also one thing that separates the SL system from, you know, taking this lens, which you can of course do, you know, get an adapter from, you know, anyone who makes one and put this on just about any mirrorless camera. But you will see less performance if you do so on another brand's camera, because, you know, hey, look, they're making their cameras for their lenses. They're not going to account for our, you know, legacy lens lineup that's been around since 1954. Why would they? So again, another big positive of the SL system is the convenience of focusing M lenses, and that's for the SL2 and SL2-S alike.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree with you more, Antonio. My thing is, I mean, there are many people in the audience who know me. The 75 Noctilux that you have right now,
that I'm filming on right now, by the way.
You're sending it back to me is really my favorite lens to shoot portraits with the SL2. It is. I mean, to me, it's magical. There's something about the look of that lens. I mean, it's great on an M camera. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoy shooting an M camera, but when you're trying to, I mean, for me, when I'm trying to work and I'm trying to, you know, I have people at when we used to do events and we're taking portraits and we're making prints to give away. Shooting an M in that environment is not optimal. Shooting the SL2 or 2S tethered with an M lens, it gives me that look and feel of the magic of the 75 Noctilux, but in a workflow that works for me. And that's a big deal. And again, it speaks to the flexibility of the system, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone has an opportunity within our system to really explore a visual signature, to find a lens and to find a body that works for them. And that's really, I think, what we do best as a company.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I see some people in the chat talking about our lenses, right? The older legacy lenses from Leica, the old SLR film system that we had some years ago. And those R-mount lenses are still sought after today. You know, sometimes some people with Leica lenses kind of base their kit around particular lenses, and that's not just the latest and greatest lenses, but also even some of those legacy optics. And it's, you know, again, it's people that really seek out that look. There's a certain quality to it. Sometimes we call it creamy sharpness when we try to describe it, you know, and it's a great overall performance aesthetic. And it's not just about technical sharpness. It's about sharpness that looks good and appropriate with also great skin tones, great rendering, great color, and a nice, you know, soft fall off to some beautiful bokeh in the background. It's the whole it's the whole 9 yards.
I always think of Peter Carba's one of his quotes. It's easy to make a sharp lens. It's how you're dealing with that transition between plane of focus, foreground, background. Mm-hmm. How you make an image three-dimensional and make it look natural. That's the big challenge. And again, I think our lenses really do that. And that's what people who shoot our cameras and our lenses understand that. And I think that's part of what grabs them and makes them shoot our products, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
It's a lot of fun.
So we've gotten some great comments in the chat and some great questions. Thank you, everyone. John, I've got a question for you before we have to wrap up soon. So what is the one thing of all the things we talked about, right? What is it about, you know, because we don't just come on here because, you know, we have to, you know, sell you a camera. We do this because, you know, we're also photographers. We have a passion for the craft and the art. And we're motivated to really just share with you guys and have fun, you know, having this kind of conversation. So John, what's the big takeaway for here? We talk about like it's got this and this and this, and each one sometimes seems bigger than the other. The high ISO, the sensor, the multi-shot, the video features, the burst shooting, all of these factors. What's your personal favorite thing that you're just so happy that we now have in the SL2S?
I mean, obviously Capture 21 is cool, but it's not really part of the camera per se. So, I mean, for me, the coolest part of the camera is the sensor and low light performance. And I can't wait to get a hold of mine, my copy, hopefully soon, and shoot it and push it and see what I can get out of it. I mean, to me, being able to shoot in a variety of situations without any studio lighting or strobes or onboard flash, I think is a huge, huge plus. And that the combination of in-body image stabilization, kind of that 1-2 punch, allowing you to shoot at slower shutter speeds, even though you can push the ISO. I mean, to me, it's phenomenal. And I do like the blacked out, the look. To me, it makes the camera less noticeable, more discreet. And to me, it's nice. I mean, sometimes shooting an SL2 with that really bright, like a lot of times I will tape it up if I'm going to a place where, you know, I'm sure I'm safe, but I may not be.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
You know,
but yeah, no, it's
how about you?
what's
your favorite?
I'm gonna cheat,
feature?
you know, because maybe my favorite thing, which I'm gonna say I'm cheating because it's the versatility. You kind of echoed it a little bit. You know, again, like I said, I've shot weddings with the SL2 and I've seen some amazing results with it. You know, I've gotten feedback from photographers that I work with saying these files look fantastic, but oh my God, these files are large. You know, and maybe not every
80,
shot
90 megabytes. Come on.
Right. And every, because I'm giving them the raws, and they don't always need that much resolution for every application, for every, you know, for every candid picture. Right. So I'm looking forward to having, you know, this great 24 megapixel sensor with this high ISO performance and all this speed, everything I love about the SL2 and this even better ISO performance, to give me you know, a nice compact file size that gives me everything I want out of it, the Leica look,
Right.
And all that versatility, right? And again, long exposures are a personal passion of mine. So at the 30-minute maximum shutter time, since the original SL has always been a favorite of mine, but since the SL2 and SL2-S, I can do that without long exposure noise reduction. Whew, fantastic. So it's always a great relief there.
Plus, with the cooler running sensor, it'd be interesting to see how that plays into time exposure also.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I think someone in the chat commented on the SEPA rating, right? For the SEPA governing body, that, you know, we have there's a rating for the battery life. And you know, SEPA ratings can always be a little bit, you know, touch and go, because your use case may be slightly different than a very specific test that they do for a SEPA rating. Yeah, yes, exactly. But you know, the battery life rating for the SL2-S is actually higher than the SL2, and I can imagine that has to do with the sensor being a little more a little less power hungry. I must assume.
I mean, you can always try EVF extended, right?
There are ways you can definitely prolong the battery life. And maybe, you know, maybe I'll tease, maybe in an upcoming Leica Tech Talk, we can go over some certain little tips for a lot of users that people will find enticing. And I did see one other question I want to comment. Someone asked if there's going to be a 28, I believe, or a 28 or 24 f2. Again, the Summicron SL line is going to be growing in the new year in 2021. We've already announced that there's going to be a 28, 24, and 21 f2 lenses. All three of those will be f2. All three will be apochromatic. All three will be aspherical, just like this 75 that I'm holding. And they'll all be the same size, even the 21 at f2. So a lot of exciting new things to come in the new year for this SL system. So yeah, thank you again for that question, for if there'll be a 28 f2. Oh yeah, and it's going to be very exciting when that comes. So stay tuned soon.
Definitely.
John, I think we've had some great conversations, some great talk, and
it's been awesome.
Again, some great people in the chat asking questions. We're so happy to have answered at least some of the questions that we've gotten. I know now we're running into a bit of overtime, but you guys have seen a little bit of what we love about the camera, how much there is to offer, and how much more there is to look forward to. And we hope that there's more like a Tech Talk to look forward to as well. We hope to bring you these hopefully on like a monthly basis. We welcome feedback, so feel free to reach out to mail@leicacamera@usa.com, or reach out to John and me. I'm at SuperAntonio64 on Instagram. John, you're at Leica Pro Image, correct?
Correct. That is it.
Yeah. So again, thank you everyone for joining us on this premiere of Leica Tech Talk. John, I'm so happy that you could join me to co-host this with me. It's been fun. It's always fun to get a little nerdy about cameras and talk shop, and it's great to do with such an engaging, fun audience. So thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks, Antonio. It's certainly great to talk. You know, it'd be great sometime if we could, you know, again, in the hopefully near future, do it in person. I think it's great to talk about our passion, right? Which is the brand and photography. So it's all great. And a lot of great questions. Really, thank you for your participation. To the attendees, it's great. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, John. And thank you, everyone. And you know what? This is the last of our programs for 2020. We've done so many great things with Leica Conversations, and we will continue to do so in the new year. So happy holidays and happy new year. We'll see you again in 2021. And we really hope everyone has a safe and healthy and enjoyable holiday time. But until next time, thank you again, John, for joining me. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you again on Leica Conversations and Leica Tech Talk. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great holiday.